Oh my gosh. Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ella and I have a new camera, yay! Okay, so I've got a new camera for Christmas, which I can still say fiance. My fiance got me, and so I'm very excited. My last video had the world's worst audio, and that was like that was like the last straw. So here we are. I hope it looks okay. Also, I have an appointment for my hair on Tuesday, which is in a couple of days from now. So like, yeah, ignore that. Ignore all of this. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all having a wonderful holiday season or Yule time or, you know, Christmas time or whatever have you. And so for this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the different tools in my folk practice. Now, I want to put out a little bit of a disclaimer. These are gonna look very different for literally every single one. You could even have the same sort of practice, like generally speaking as me, and you're probably gonna have different tools. That's just the nature. I have to make sure my posture is okay. That's just the nature of things. That's just the nature of folk magic. It's not a ceremonial path, which means that it is unstructured, let's say, in the sense that it's depending on location, it's depending on different culture, it's depending on like so many different factors, whereas ceremonial paths such as Wicca, Thelema, so on and so forth, they're going to have a little bit more of a structure. They usually tend to have a hierarchy, and they usually tend to have certain tools that they use, and you know, there's much more things that kind of you go by, let's say, whereas folk magic is really not. Now I have a video, you can go check that out if you would like to know more about what actually folk magic is. But yeah, let's get right into this video. Now this is going to, I could make this video like 2 hours long. There's so many different tools that I use in my practice. Tools that are handmade, tools that I have crafted, or just tools, which reminds me, I think I'm missing one thing, but I'll get it in a moment. Just different things that, you know, you collect over time. That's the next point. You don't have to, like, if you're starting out, you don't have to get all of these like that. I definitely didn't. This is my 15th year of practicing witchcraft, dedicatedly at least, and I've collected these items over the past 15 years. So, you know, there's no pressure for you. I know that there's a lot of, you know, the aesthetic, and I love aesthetics. Don't get me wrong, I'm all about aesthetics. Like, I love how things look. I'm a very visual person, but with folk magic, it's about what is accessible, it's about what is in your area, what makes sense for you, and it's all about using what you've got. So with all of that out of the way, let's get right into the first tool. And the first one, in my opinion, the most important, is going to be your journal or your grimoire, or your book of shadows, or your whatever you want to call it. I just usually just say, like, what do I say these days? I used to always say book of shadows, which I know is very popular in Wicca. I still sometimes say that. I think it just sounds really mystical, but just journal works. So this is mine. It's just this leather one that I got off of Amazon, but you can hand make these obviously, or you can get whatever works. And this is just where I jot down, like I love tabbing. Tabbing is my favorite with books, with anything. It helps me really focus. And so if you go on the front page, I'm just opening it up for you. I have, that was a pen. I have a color system of like tabs in here. So I have ancestral, I have plant folklore, I have Germanic / German, I have familiar spirit, I have personal musings and meditations, and then I have spells, rituals, and recipes. And then I tab them all. So if I won't show you obviously, but you can see all of the different tabs, and I tab them like, yeah, does that make sense? But this is just how I stay organized, because I used to always be very like jumping from journal to journal because I would get frustrated with how it looks, or like it not being the way I want it to be, or like, oh no, the page didn't work. And then I was like, okay, I could get a binder. And I do have a couple of binder ones as well, but they're large. This one I can just take with me. And so the tabbing system really works well because I can have some organization, but I can still go from page to page without being like, oh, I have to leave out 5 pages. Oh no, I didn't leave out enough pages, you know, that type of thing. So anyway, journal. It's going to be your favorite thing, I think. This is going to be where you jot down dreams or spirit encounters or feelings or, you know, divination sessions or recipes that you're working on, or folklore that you think is important or fascinating or whatever have you, right? At least this is what I write down. If I write down things that are important to my practice, for example, things like that make sense for my path, like I practice German folk witchcraft, so if I read something in relation to that, I like to write it down. I like to have an index page. This is not my idea. Leah, the red-headed witch, gave me that idea of having, like, so that you can reference, like you write down the books right on the front of the page, or in one of the pages in the front, so that you can have an overview of which books really impacted your practice and what you always kind of go back to. Again, this is not me, this is Leah's, so, you know, give credit where credit is due. And then there's also like an ancestry section where you can write things down for, like, you know, all of the things that relate to your ancestors or your family history or, you know, family lore, whatever. So your journal, I think, is really, really great to have as a folk witch. It's very important. You can use this as, you know, materia magica, materia... like for your plants, for example, right? So if you're working with plants, which I really do, especially the poison path, then I write down my findings or experiences that I've had. I had a recent one where I was intoxicated essentially from datura, and that was immediately written down. Like whilst I was having that experience, I was taking notes and then I transferred them in here. So this is really, really great to just always go back and reference. Anyway, that is your journal. Let me get the next item. Now this obviously is very heavily dependent on what type of practice you do. I've had all of those disclaimers in the beginning. My personal next one, I am picking them at random, there's no specific order to these, are some type of divination method. Now my go-to tends to be tarot. My favorite is just the good old Rider-Waite, just because I like it's very clear. That's what my Oma taught me and my mom. It with, you know, the very classic sort of symbolism, colors and all that stuff. And then I just have it in this little pouch here. And that's my go-to divination method. Now divination for me, this is maybe a whole different video, but for me this is partially, yes, spirit communication, but to me the spirit works through you to be able to read these cards. I know some people obviously think more like, oh, it's your subconscious. Some people think it's, you know, like a higher being that you're communicating with or to. And I think all of them are valid. I feel like there's a lot of interconnectedness with your subconscious and spirits. And the spirits around you, and so, or even your ancestors, for example, especially because I feel like your ancestors live in you and live through you, and using divination is able to tap into that. And so I have divination tarot cards. I've also recently gotten into bone throwing, so I have my little bone throwing set here. It's not done yet, I'm still missing, not missing, but like I would like to add some more items to here. Let me just pull out one. I've got this hare's foot here, for example. Will the camera focus? Is the question. Well, I guess you can see it. And so this is my little bone throwing set in here. I've got runes, I've got a pendulum. Pendulums were one of the first one that my Oma actually taught me. I'm like glancing over to the screen every once in a while. Another one, for example, and that is going to be very dependent on the witch, is, for example, something larger for divination, such as, I love my Ouija board. I know some people are intimidated by it. I have a video, if you would like to check it out, all about Ouija boards and how you can work with them. This one is from Pandora Witch Shop. Love them. So Yeah, but honestly, it just really depends on your practice. And so what that means is different cultures are going to have different divination practices. For example, I've actually written a paper on Chinese divination, Chinese traditional divination during my bachelor time. And you have the shells of a tortoise that used to be a common divination tool, I guess you could say that, just for the sake of communicating. And so you're gonna have different divination tools in different practices and different cultures. Some people prefer leaf reading, some people, you know, tea leaf or coffee grounds. Some people prefer palmistry. Palmistry was another one that my Oma showed me at a very young age. There's so many, obviously. So have a look at the one that makes the most sense for where you are, what's around you, what you grew up with, perhaps, to get a start at least. Then another tool, I don't even want to say tool because, you know, but another thing, I suppose, I include a lot of my practice is plants. Now I work with poisonous plants specifically, my favorite being henbane. I actually have a tray sitting over there. I just sowed new seeds of mandrake, datura, brugmansia and henbane seeds. For the springtime coming up, of course, and they need, you know, cold to germinate. And I love working with plant spirits. Now spirits is another one that in my folk practice work with heavily. For me specifically, the plants, and then obviously also, for example, ancestors and the house spirit as well. The house spirit is the one that I work with the most, just because obviously, you know, it just makes sense. I live in a house. I'm gonna, you know, interact with it the most. But spirits are going to be something that you will find yourself is very prevalent in folk magic, especially, for example, a familiar spirit, but spirits in general, land spirits, or as I said, ancestral spirits, plant spirits, perhaps animal spirits. There's a variety of different spirits that you can work with and that are going to be helpful in your practice and that are going to become prevalent in your practice. Now, fun fact, this was something that I found very interesting. I obviously grew up Wiccan, and then over the last few years I shifted to more traditional witchcraft and folk magic. And if you know Cecil Williamson, or Cecil, I think it is, Cecil Williamson, he actually spoke about how Jill Gardner is afraid of spirits, and that's why it's so not prominent in Wicca, or that's at least his theory, or that was his kind of theory at least. Or maybe it wasn't even his theory. I know I read it in Gemma Gary's Silent as the Trees, and that was so fascinating. Great book. I love that book, by the way, so if you want a book recommendation, a random one, there you go. The next thing that I work with, next tool, let's say, and this ties in with the plant spirits, is I like to use these plant spirits to invoke them essentially and use them in, for example, different projects that I make myself. So I like to create my own oils, and I like to create my own incense blends and things like that. And I'm going to be using these, you know, I'm going to invite these spirits into my, you know, these oils in this case. And then I can use that oil for whatever it is. This one is liminal, and this one is to invoking spirit communication. I work primarily with spirit communication. That's like what I focus on. And so we've got some kind of handmade products, some products that you craft yourself with what's, again, around you or what makes sense in your practice. You know, all of that list of etc, etc. But I find that creating your own is, in my opinion, the best, just because you know what you're working with, you're adding your own essence into it. I do love occasionally buying things from other practitioners and, you know, seeing how theirs kind of works and things like that. But I personally, and this is my own personal opinion, you know, like all that disclaimer stuff, in my opinion, you're making your own works the best. Like, there are certain things I would never buy online, like for example a stang or a staff, like which is, you know, this, which by the way is standing, oh no, you can't see it, hold on, which by the way is standing right there. Here we go, now it's in frame. That is going to be something that I would never ever buy online, or a spirit house or spell jars, or things like that. You know, I feel like you can make them so easily yourself. I don't see the point in me personally buying them. However, I see that for some other people, of course, it might make more sense to buy certain things, right? Fair enough. But yeah. So oils, for example, I like to use a lot in my practice, especially like protective oils or intuitive oils, or just oils for an intention for the day. There's a lot, honestly. Then we are going to be talking about some charms. Now this is again super specific to culture. One of the charms that you will see on my altar is a horseshoe. In Germany the horseshoe is a lot, and this is across a lot of cultures. But in Germany it's also one of the cases. It's a good luck sign, it's a good luck symbol. Upwards like this means that the luck can kind of collect in here. You have it in front of, not in front of, above of your door, usually your, you know, main door. If it were to tip over, you know, like flip, I'm not gonna show it because I'm superstitious, then the luck tumbles out. But this is something that I like to also work with in my practice for certain spell works, or, you know, rituals and things like that. But certain charms that make sense are going to be very prevalent in my folk practice. Now behind me you see another tool, actually a couple of ones if I'm looking. The stang over there, I'm not gonna go grab it, but I can hop you over like that again. So this is my stang over there. This is going to be kind of like a walking stick in some aspects, connecting to the land below you, considering there's a direct connection. Like even if you think energy wise, like physics, is it physics? Physics wise, you know, conductivity, holding onto that stick when you're wearing like shoes that they tend to have plastic in them these days, or you're not going barefoot in the winter, well, you might be, but usually you don't. That is going to have a conduction of energy flowing through. This also obviously works within the traditional witchcraft practice of casting a circle, or you know, walking the compass, or hallowing the circle and grounds and things like that. Whatever you want to call it. It's basically the same concept. Creating a space for your workings, for your rituals. That is what the stang is for. So that is something that I went out and also crafted myself. I went out into the forest. I asked for the presentation of my personal stang, and in that same walk it did present itself to me, just right in front of my feet. So that was really fabulous, and that is my stang. Then what else do we have right behind me? Now you're going to obviously have the actual main altar, depending again on your path. How many times can I say that? It is true, of course. I always feel like I have to say that, just because then otherwise comments are gonna come from me and be like, well, I don't have an altar, and that's fine, you don't have to. This is my video. My altar is my sacred space. I have a bunch of different tools on there. I have, for example, scrying mirror. I have, what else can we see in immediate effectiveness? I have a project that I'm working on for a spirit. I have certain spirits, spirit vessels, such as, for example, these different skulls. Then I have certain design elements, certain aesthetic pieces, you will maybe say, candles and things like that. There's going to be a bunch of different ones, really different. If you, for example, have a look on Instagram, you're going to see so many different beautiful altars that are going to all have very personal elements. They might have pictures of ancestors, they might have cauldrons. I have a cauldron standing over there, for example, that is dedicated to my the goddess that I worship. You're going to have a bunch of different things. I have statues, for example, again dedicated to the god and goddess that I worship and venerate. What else? There's just a plethora of things that you're going to find a witch is going to practice with. I feel like, at least myself, I'm a total maximalist. I love knickknacks. I love picking up rocks and stones and sticks and bones and everything. And a lot of times in a traditional practice, that is going to be something that you will actually even read in a lot of the traditional books, is that there is going to be a representation of different elements. As I said, stick, stone, bone, certain things that are dedicated to certain spirits, so on and so forth. So that is what my tools generally look like. Oh wait, no, I forgot one. And one of the things, actually I have two. The last one is potentially, we'll see. Some people might disagree with me, but one of the other tools, for example, is this. I think I can show it. It's a knife. I'm just gonna show it real quick. There we go. Put that away before YouTube demonetizes me or whatever. I don't know, it would. Better safe than sorry. But a lot of the things that I found very, very fascinating moving over from a traditional ceremonial practice, which was Wicca, to a traditional witchcraft folk magic practice, is the utility of things. Now I have an theme which is hanging over there. Where is it? Up there. There it is. It's still hanging there in commemoration. I have a chalice over there, for example, as well, in commemoration. And they were very ceremonial tools. You only used them in symbolism. You didn't really use them for certain things like cutting, like an athame. A lot of the Wiccan books, especially the 90s books that I, was reading and growing up on, were like, you do not cut with this. How dare you, blasphemy, type thing. Whereas in traditional magic, they're like, you need a knife. Like, you need a knife to cut stuff. How are you gonna cut stuff? And that was a big shift for me. I was like, oh my God. Because I had such a like, oh, you don't touch this. This is like super symbolic. This is representative. Whereas traditional witchcraft, things tend to have a purpose. Things tend to actually be used. Things tend to actually have like, and not that in Wicca, for example, I'm just speaking out of experience with Wicca, that you didn't use them. It's just, they were a lot more, I don't know, maybe I'm giving like a misrepresentation right now, so I'm gonna hold my tongue. In any case, I found that there's a lot of other things in my practice in folk magic that I'm actually making more use that seems to be logic. For example, using a knife to cut things. So that was one of the things that I really wanted to get a nice one. This is a really nice blade, for example, and I use this for everything. I use this for, can I say that? For bloodletting. I use it to cut plants. I use it to, obviously make sure you are sterilizing your tools if you're going to use it like that. I use it all the time for all the different type of things that I might be using a knife for, right? So yeah, and then the last tool that I like to use is my phone. And this is untraditional, this is modern, but I really like to have my notes app. If I go into my notes app right now, let me have a look. I have a little section called BOS. I don't know if I can, that should be fine. I have a little section, I don't know if you can read it, called BOS. And then if you tap into BOS, I have all these different sections that I find. I love having my phone with me. I love jotting things down because I have my phone on me all the time. So I have my dreams, for example, and I have dreams like from 2019. I'm not gonna show you, besides that there is like a little 2019. So I have like way back, I mean, it's not that way back, but I got this phone in 2019, so I have dreams from 2019 on this phone. And then there are certain apps that I really love they make sense in my practice, for example, the moon phases. So if I, for example, turn my phone off and on again, I have the little widget that shows me the percentage or the stage of the moon. I have like astrology apps in here. I have a plant app that I absolutely adore, which is called Picture This. that tells me, by the way, if you have this app, there's a very sneaky little cancel up here and then you don't have to pay. And if you click cancel, you can just access the usual interface anyway. And so I jot my plants down in here that I have, take notes about those. There is another app that is similar for gemstones. The same company, I believe, where you can identify certain gemstones. I have Aura on here. Aura is my meditation app. And there's just a couple of different cool things on my phone that I like to use for my spiritual practice. Least of not which is communication and community. That's not really a tool, but I think it is important to mention that anyway. I am a singular witch. I don't have, well, my husband, my fiance, soon to be husband, he also practices, but you know, I don't have like a coven or anything of that sort. And so a lot of my community, at least for witchcraft related things, is going to be on my phone. So that's another tool. But yeah, so I guess that is probably the longest video ever on folk tools, tools of a folk witch, but you know, I'm not even sure if I'm gonna use this video. Maybe the audio is awful, we'll see. Maybe I hate how I look, who cares? Well, we'll see. But yeah, that is already it then for this video. I would love to hear what your tools are in your practice. What are your most used tools in your practice? Definitely leave a comment down below. I always love like just chatting and like hearing what other people's like practices look like. And if you'd like to see more, I do have a Patreon and I also have an Instagram, of course, so all of that will be linked down below. And if you'd like this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And yeah, beyond that, I hope you're all having a wonderful day or night or week, and thank you so much for watching this video. May you walk with your gods. Bye!